back. Welcome back. I'm pretty excited. Welcome back to Hoodwinked. I'm Corey McDonald. I'm the host of this show, and I'm super excited to be back. It has been a long time since I've been on air with my podcast, and I'm excited to be back. Now, let me just share a couple of things with you guys before we get started. One of the reasons why I've been out for so long is that, hey, listen, when you're talking against things that um, you subscribe to, being an ordained pastor, pastoring a church, and all these things, and then I come out and I talk about controversial things that people don't want to talk about, or things that people consider taboo. You lose some friends, and I knew I was going to lose some friends. I knew I was going to lose some colleagues. I knew I was going to upset some family members, but I didn't realize it was going to have the impact that it had on me. I was pretty beat up about it. Um, and I considered not even doing the show anymore. But I want to thank my wife, who encouraged me to get back on, and more importantly, I want to thank my brother, who just the other day sent me a great text and said, "Hey, man, it doesn't matter what people think, or what they're gonna think what they're gonna think. If you believe in what you're doing, continue to do it." And that puts some energy in me, and so I'm excited to be back on, and I'm going to continue on regardless, because this is my truth, and my truth is my truth. And here's the thing about truth: when you find truth, you want to share that truth with whoever wants to hear. So there are going to be people who don't want to hear. There are going to be people who want to criticize. There are going to be people who just don't understand, and that's okay. For those who don't understand, I ask you to seek to understand. Ask me a question. Come have a conversation with me. Try to figure out where I'm coming from, and before you criticize me. And then those who have left, I mean, they left for their own reasons. So I still have love for everybody, but I'm excited to be back. I am really, really excited to be back. So thank you for all the supporters who are out there. I did get emails or texts from people say, "Hey, man, you getting back on? What's going on?" And then I did make a post last month. I thought I was going to get back on in June, and I didn't. So I'm here now. I'm not going anywhere. We will continue these podcasts. I'm super excited about it. You'll probably hear me on another podcast too, a sports podcast that's coming out at the end of this month. I'm excited to be a part of that. But hey, listen, if you like what you hear, if you want to be a part of this, then go on Podbean. We're on Podbean. Subscribe to that. Subscribe to YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Podchasers, X, Instagram, TikTok, and Facebook. And I always want to give a special thanks out to my son, Ashton, who created the music for me. You can check him out on Spotify. His little tagline is Ace Prod. So with all of that, now let's get on to the big question of the day. If you're a member of a church or attend a church, how would you feel if the church leadership implemented that the congregation needed to recite the Pledge of Allegiance before service started? Yeah, that's a question. Or what if you drove up to that church and that church just was full of flags, like American flags all around the church? Would you go in? Would you recite the Pledge of Allegiance? Would you continue to participate as usual? I mean, I don't know. I mean, one of the reasons I'm asking this question is because I live in a suburban area, and I was driving just the other day, and I drove in front of a evangelical mega church in our community that had flags all over it. Now, some people will be like, "Well, Corey, it is the 4th of July time, and people celebrate that by putting out flags." And that's true, but I've never seen a church put that many flags out. It looked like I was driving up on the Pentagon. It was crazy. It doesn't make sense to me. And to recite the Pledge of Allegiance in a church, I mean, my goodness, we are getting out of hand. And then was it in Louisiana? One of the school districts or the state just passed a law that says that the 10 Commandments have to be in every school. I mean, this is insanity. What are we doing? What are we doing? Now, listen, some of you may not have a problem with that, which means you are the problem. Serious. I mean, I say that with love, but if you don't have a problem or see the problem with this, then maybe you're part of the problem, or you're just one of the most uninformed people on a lot of topics because this crosses every sacred line that is supposed to be set up in this country. This points directly to the Constitution. It really, really does. Now, listen, there's nothing in the Constitution that uses the word separation of church and state, but the First Amendment has what's called an establishment clause that states Congress cannot create an official religion, favor one over another, or unduly influence America's religious lives. The First Amendment also protects people's right to worship wherever they want. In other words, religion is supposed to be separate from anything relating to our government. It's supposed to be separate. But now it's all blended in from one specific part of Christianity, and that's white evangelicals. White evangelicals. Now, listen, not all of them, but a lot of them, and especially what's considered that MAGA group. These people are putting the country over people. And I don't know. Well, yeah, I do. I know where it's coming from, and it's sad, and it's frustrating, and the need to win is more important than the lives of people. The need to win is more important than following the sacred scriptures you say you believe in. Because trust me, that's not what scripture says. There's nothing in scripture that supports our love of country over people. It just simply doesn't exist. It's not there. And I'm going to get to that in just a few minutes. But first, I want to take a look at this Constitution of the United States of America. Number one, the Constitution was not written for people of color like myself. It was written for white men. It wasn't even written for white women. It was written for white men. It was established in 1787. Slavery was abolished in 1865. But guess what? In between that, even when the Constitution was written, it was written by men who were slave owners. So if it was written by men who were slave owners, then how could that Constitution be written for people who look like me? People who were my ancestors, who were being beat, raped, murdered, starved, kicked, treated less than an animal, split their families up. People who were married, they got split up during slavery. People who have kids, the parents got split up and went somewhere else, and then they took the kids somewhere else. I mean, this Constitution wasn't written for us. And unfortunately, it has never been amended to be written for us. Now, some will say, well, what about the 13th Amendment? Yeah, let's get to that. 13th Amendment was established in 1865. Like I said, the men who wrote it, most of them were slave owners. So it didn't affect us. But let's take a look at the 13th Amendment. In its simplest terms, the 13th Amendment was the first of three Reconstruction Amendments ratified on December 6, 1865. It forbids chattel slavery across the United States and in every territory under its control, except as a criminal punishment. So let me elaborate on that. What that means is if you commit a crime in a state or in the federal government, and you are put or sentenced to jail, you just gave up all your rights. You are in servitude to that state or that federal government. Servitude is another word for slavery, meaning that you have zero rights. They have 100% control over you, and they can do or make you do whatever you want. And if you don't believe me, just look down south where they have the chain gangs going. Look out in Arizona where they make people sleep on tents in the middle of the desert. I mean, and they feed them Kool-Aid and crackers for lunch, dinner, and breakfast. Mistreatment. Look at some of how the prisons are looking. Rat infested. They treat them just like less than dogs. It's absolutely terrible. And here's the worst thing. One of the fastest growing industries in this country right now are private prisons. And most of these private prisons they have investors who are judges, who are prosecuting attorneys, who are district attorneys. I mean, so you tell me, so you had the 13th Amendment, but then after the 13th Amendment, we had Jim Crow. And then after Jim Crow, we had the civil rights movement. And then after the civil rights movement, Gerald Nixon implemented the war on drugs, and Ronald Reagan re-implemented it, and Clinton doubled down on it, and Obama tripled down on it. And why is that important? Because it affected people of color. It affected these people. These guys put drugs. These are facts. Go look this stuff up. They literally put crack cocaine into the neighborhoods, in the urban neighborhoods. And then because there was a lack of jobs, these people tried to feed their families with drugs. Now, I'm not justifying what they did, but they did it because it was there to do, and they had no other way of income at that time. So what did that do? That split families up, just like in slavery. It split families up. It took the man out of the home, and either he was dead or he was in jail. Mom was put on drugs or forced to put on drugs or had to work 5 jobs, and the kids were running amok. You split the family up. You cause chaos. Now you got something, because now and then they started writing laws. They started writing laws to justify this, to put people in prison for doing the exact same thing, to put black guys in prison to do the exact same thing that white folks are doing, but their punishment was 10 times greater than those of their whites. So we have not dealt with slavery. We have not overcome slavery. It still exists. It just exists in a different form. And now you have this religion that we were all indoctrinated into that helps justify some of this evilness. Yeah. I'm going to share a couple of quotes with you here. Quote number 1 is from Brigham Young. We all know who Brigham Young is, the Mormon church. And, they have a Division I college, billions of dollars, millions of people who follow them. They say they're Christian. But this is what their leader said, Brigham Young. And I quote, "With regard to slavery, inasmuch as we believe in the Bible, we must believe in slavery. This colored race have been subjected to severe curses brought upon themselves. I am a firm believer in slavery." Now, I got all kinds of questions for this dead dude. Hey, listen, so number 1, when did any black person ever raise their hand and say, hey, I want to go into slavery. I want them to kidnap me from my country, bring me to another country, give me another language, give me a religion, and force me to do all their work for them. And if I don't do that, they're going to beat me, kill me, rape my wife, and then take control of my kids and do the same to them. Yeah, I don't think we volunteer for that. And then here's the other part. Who are them to say that we were cursed by anything? They came to our country, grabbed us, and brought us over here. Now, some of these people will go directly to the Bible, which they justified the slavery, and say that God put a curse on us. Misinterpreted scripture. God didn't put a curse on black people. It's insanity. It's absolute insanity. This guy said, I'm a firm believer in slavery. He was one of the founders of one of the biggest churches that exist in this country. And then if you don't want to take that quote, let's listen to another one here. In 1844, Unitarian pastor Ralph Waldo Emerson wrote this: "I would say to every slave in the United States, you should realize that a wise, kind, and merciful providence has appointed for you your condition in life. And all things considered, you could not be more eligibly suited. The burden of your care, toils, responsibility, and much higher than that which God has imposed on your master. The most enlightened philanthropist with unlimited resources could not place you in a situation more favorable to your present and everlasting welfare than that which you now occupy." That's a quote. That's sickness. Absolute sickness. Burden of care. How'd they care for our slaves? How'd they care for them? They beat them. They murdered them. They raped them. They even raped their own kids that they had by the slave woman that they raped. They split families up. I mean, this is sickness, but it's true. It's a fact. These are quotes. Go look them up. Don't just take my word for it. Go look them up. So this has been going on for a very long time. What's happening right now with this religious right-wing group of people who think they're better than everybody, this has been going on for a long time. And they also justify this garbage with the Bible. They absolutely do. Here's a guy that's kind of like me who started speaking out against this stuff. And, you know, I'm pretty sure this guy's gotten a lot of death threats. His name is Jim Wallis, Wallis, and he authored a few books. One book is called God Politics. The other one's Original Sin. And one I just got done reading, The False White Gospel. He is a white evangelical pastor who is tired of this mess. And he's trying to do something to change the minds of people, because if you change the minds of people, then therefore you can change the heart. And this is what he says. He says, and this is a quote, "Religion is often used as a sword to divide rather than a bomb to heal." And this is one thing that has never happened in this country. We've never healed. We've never put any closure to this slavery because it continues today in just a different form. There's mental slavery, and spiritual slavery is alive and rampant in this country like you would not believe. And I would go further. I say this. Here's my quote: "Religion is used to control and enslave, not to free any person of color." I said that and I stand by it. We have problems. There's a lot going on. Just pay attention. If you're not paying attention, you're choosing to live under a rock. And you're probably choosing to live under a rock because you don't have the courage to stand up and say what's right and do what's right. Follow the leader. Just because someone stands up and says they have authority to speak into your life, that doesn't mean you need to believe them. We need to be paying attention. We need to see what's going on around us. This is serious, guys. This country has never done anything to truly heal the original sin of slavery. Now, many of you argue with me, "Oh, that's not true. We've advanced." I even have people on my own race, how far we've advanced. Guess what? I used to believe that. It's not true. It's just a different form of servitude. And now with this religious servitude, it makes it even worse because it's speaking to our core. And we're making everlasting decisions based off of this stuff these people are spewing out. It affects not just you, but affects everyone around you. And there lies the problem. And I'm going to prove it. I don't know about you guys, but I do a lot of trolling. You know, all these pastors, they put their stuff out because they're trying to get the clicks and they're trying to get all the popularity because they think they're doing the right thing and they're great and all of this. But I just want you to, I want to encourage you to listen to some of the stuff that they say. We have some of the most hateful and nasty things coming out of the mouths of pastors in the pulpit about homosexuality and LGBTQ. Now, listen, I don't partake in any of that. I'm a heterosexual black man. So what? So what? I'm supposed to love those people who are different from me. I'm supposed to love them like I love myself. I'm supposed to care for them like I care for myself, even though we are very, very different, even though we make different choices in our lives as it relates to our sexuality. And then the illegal immigrants, they call them illegal aliens. That's just a slur in itself. But who am I to mistreat an illegal immigrant who's trying to better their life, most of them? But leave it to these politicians and the media. They make the American people and the world think that these immigrants are the worst people ever created that are coming to our country and destroying our country. It's an absolute lie, because most ancestors of this country all came from somewhere else. So, I mean, it's absolutely ridiculous. And then what about the women's rights? I can guarantee you there's not a law in place that tells a man what to do with his body. Not one. Not one. Not one. And I can even double down on that. There's nothing in Scripture that says anything about abortion. There's something in Scripture that says we shouldn't kill. But guess what? There's a merciful God that we serve who created everything. And if a woman was raped or a woman was raped by her family member, we call that incest, they should have a right to not have that baby. We don't have a right to tell people what to do with their bodies, specifically women. Oh, but this group does. I mean, they do it so much to where, they've some of these people, we call them extreme, have even murdered doctors for doing this stuff. The death threats, and now they're trying to create laws that where if a woman goes out trying to protect herself because she doesn't particularly want this kid that she's been impregnated with, they want to prosecute them. They want to put them in jail. Well, you talk about hypocrisy, because a lot of those people who are making these laws, especially if they're women and they're standing behind this garbage, they probably had to make some decisions in their lives too. We are not getting it right. And here's the sad part about this, people, is that these folks are using the Bible to justify their garbage, their hatred. And there's a whole lot of other things that relates to people of color in this country. Even in the white church, you go to some of these churches and it's like, we're a multicultural church. We got all kind of people in here. And a lot of that's true. They got all kind of different races in the congregation. But a real multicultural church is a church that has multicultural leadership. And in most of these mega churches, there's all white folks. I don't know. Y'all better wake up and see what's going on. Smell some coffee. Oh, I use wake. I use woke. I'm sorry, I'm not supposed to use that term. Y'all better wake up, because these people, they are destroying people's confidence and their spirituality and their identities. And they're justifying it by misquoting scripture, no different than they justified it, slavery, by misquoting scripture. Now, some of you guys are going to argue with me, well, the scriptures do say obey your slave master and all this. Put it in context, guys. With any and everything, you need to put it in context. That's taken out of context. I don't subscribe to that, because God didn't do that. God didn't say that. Man said that. God didn't say that. And you can't convince me that God did say it, because if God did say it, that ain't a God I want to be a part of. Period. Now, they justify all this hatred in the pulpit. They justify all this nastiness and trying to control you and control women and their rights and everything. And the very person that they say they follow and believe to be their God, Jesus, he says something completely different. He said something completely different. This is why I'm challenged to think that these people just don't read what they say they read, or they don't interpret it the proper way, because there's something else going on. There's some type of form of deception that they're trying to put over you. But go to Matthew 5:9. It's pretty simple. This is one of the most simple scriptures in the Bible. Jesus proclaimed, "Blessed are the peacemakers, for they will be called the children of God." Yeah, peacemakers. All this hell raising and just flat out nasty hatred that's coming out of these pulpits in this evangelical white church is sickening. Absolutely sickening. And I'll get to the black church with all this foolishness going on. I mean, I'll get to the black church soon, because, you talk about a confused group. It has become about money, fame, clicks, and nothing about the Bible. They'll put out a quote, and then they'll go on and do their little entertaining and all. It's just ridiculous. None of this stuff is spiritual. It's contrary to spirituality. But they too justify it with scripture. It's mind-boggling. But many of you guys, do you guys know that the Bible's been translated more than 2,500 times? Do you guys know that in order to get the true meaning of the original text, you have to break the Hebrew, the words down in the Hebrew and in the Greek, break them down to the root meaning, and then that's going to get you as close to the original context and understanding of what those scriptures say? Well, most people don't know that. And then most people don't even know how to do it. this is why there's so much garbage being regurgitated through these pastors and these people that it's sad. And all it's doing is hurting folks. So Jim Wallace, that I was talking about earlier, in his book, America's Original Sin, he says this, and I really like what he says here because it makes total sense. He goes, for a very long time, white evangelicalism has been simply wrong on the issue of race. Indeed, conservative white Christians have served as a basin of racial segregation and a bulwark against racial justice efforts for decades in the South and throughout the country. During the civil rights struggle, the vast majority of white evangelicals and their churches were on the wrong side. They were on the wrong side of the truth. They were on the wrong side of the Bible, and they're on the wrong side of the gospel. I can't get any clearer than that. I can't make a statement more clear than that. Here's one of their own who is saying that they're on the wrong side of history. They've made, the Bible teaches you that the person that's most deceived, that's the worst type of deceivement, is the person who deceives themselves. These people have deceived themselves into thinking that they're doing good when they're destroying the fabric of our existence. So in closing, if you attend these churches who discriminate, who spew out hatred, who love their country more than they love their neighbor, then you have two choices. Actually, you really only have one choice. But I'm going to give you two, because maybe you like your church. Maybe you like the people there. Maybe you want to be a part of that, but you're uncomfortable with some of the things that are going on. So here's what I'll tell you to do. Confront your leadership of that church. Call them out on their garbage. Tell them to show you where it biblically allows them to discriminate, mistreat, and spew out hatred. Confront them. Do your homework first, but confront them. Or, here's your second choice. Run. And run as fast as you can. Because I agree with Wallace. They're on the wrong side of the truth. They're on the wrong side of the race issue. They're on the wrong side of the Bible. And they are absolutely 100% on the wrong side of the gospel. Simply put, people were not created to serve and worship a country or religion. Religion is man-made. Denominations are man-made. This country is just dirt and water. We were not created to worship a country. We were not created to worship religion and the leaders of the religion. It's just simple. I mean, I can't put it any simpler terms. And as for my people of color, we are spiritual people who were stripped of that spiritual nature and forced to worship a God, the God of our colonizers. Forced to. And then those who were born after that were indoctrinated into this garbage, made us believe that this was God. All while they abused us, while they mistreated us, while they took what was our fabric, our essence. They stripped that away and put something else on us. And they did it all by manipulating the scriptures. See, because religion controls. It controls you to your core if you allow it. So it was mental manipulation and spiritual manipulation that allowed that to happen. We are people of light, of justice, of love, who were indoctrinated into a religion of hatred disguised in love, which manipulated us into believing their lies. I'm going to tell all y'all, like I told all three of my boys, you need to be an independent thinker. When things don't make sense to you, you need to find out why they don't make sense, because if it doesn't make sense, it's not true. Critically think about these things, but don't just critically think about it. Go do your homework so you can arrive at your truth, not someone else's truth that's manipulated with lies. My goal is to help everyone raise their level of consciousness by running from this thing called Christianity in America. American Christianity is not biblical. American Christianity is full of hatred, murder, rape, lies, manipulation, all disguised in a form of love. And you need to start learning what our ancestors knew. You need to get back into that. You need to open up those books. You need to get that information. It's readily available, and start understanding what our ancestors understood. See, we were spiritual people. We didn't have any restraints. We didn't have all these rules and regulations that you can never uphold to. We're spiritual people. We had a connection with God, the Creator. Our ancestors didn't have an opportunity to teach us that because it was stripped from them. It was beat out of them. The pain was so hard, so bad of having your family split up and torn apart that we conceded. I'm not conceding anymore. I refuse to concede. I'm going to do exactly what Jesus said. He says, love God with all your heart, all your soul, all your mind. God, the creator of everything, the God that is in everything. And love your neighbor like you love yourself. There ain't nobody in this world that loved me more than me. So I'm going to love you. And with love comes truth. And I'm going to be honest with you. But I encourage you to go do your homework, become a critical thinker, and that will raise your level of consciousness, therefore freeing you from the condemnation that is called Christianity in America. I'm back, y'all. I'm back. And my next topic just might be this stupid comment that I heard in the debate of, the immigrants coming over and taking black jobs. You can't make this stuff up, man. You just simply cannot make this stuff up. It is happening. It's all over the place. And unfortunately, a lot of people aren't calling these folks on this garbage, but it's there. It's absolutely there. I'm back. I'm happy. I love y'all. Peace out. Have a great holiday.